Elias lived on the 14th floor of a concrete apartment complex. It was one of those modern buildings where the windows were floor-to-ceiling glass, offering a beautiful view of the city or, in Elias's case, a view of the identical apartment building exactly 50 feet across the street. Because the buildings were so close, Elias could see into the lives of his neighbors. He didn't mean to spy, but it was hard not to notice the woman on the 12th floor who always ate cereal at midnight, or the elderly man on the 15th floor who spent all day painting. One rainy Friday night, Elias was sitting on his sofa with the lights off, watching the rain streak against the glass. He looked across to the opposite building. Most of the windows were dark, but one unit directly leveled with his own was glowing with a harsh, clinical blue light. In that window stood a man. The man was tall and wore a dark suit. He wasn't moving. He was simply standing at the glass, staring straight ahead. Elias felt a small prickle of unease. He realized the man was staring directly at him. Elias moved to the kitchen to get a glass of water. When he looked back, the man hadn't moved. His head hadn't turned. His body remained perfectly still, facing Elias's apartment. Just a weirdo, Elias muttered. He closed his blinds and went to bed. The next morning, the sun was bright. Elias opened his blinds, expecting to see an empty apartment across the way, but the man was still there. He was in the exact same position, wearing the same suit, staring with wide, unblinking eyes. Elias felt a cold shiver. He grabbed a pair of binoculars. Through the lenses, he could see the man's face clearly. His skin was pale, almost like wax, but it was his eyes that were wrong. They weren't looking at Elias's window in general, they were locked onto Elias's eyes. Even weirder, the man didn't seem to breathe. No rise and fall of the chest. No blinking. Elias decided to test something. He walked to the far left of his living room. The man's head didn't move, but his eyes, they seemed to slide in their sockets, following Elias. Elias ran to the far right. The eyes followed again. Panicked, Elias called the building manager. "Hey, in Building B, apartment 1402. There's a guy staring into my place. He's been there for 24 hours. I think something is wrong. Maybe he's dead." Standing up, the manager paused. "Building B, 1402. Sir, that unit has been empty for 6 months. The power is disconnected. There shouldn't be any lights on in there." Elias felt the blood drain from his face. He looked back at the window. The blue light was still there. The man was still there. Then, the man did something he hadn't done yet. He raised a hand. He slowly placed a long, thin finger against the glass. He began to draw something in the condensation. "HLP?" Elias gasped. "He's trapped," he thought. His fear turned into a brief moment of guilt. He grabbed a marker and a large piece of paper. He wrote, "I am calling the police," and held it up to the window. The man across the street didn't react to the sign. Instead, he started to smile. It wasn't a human smile. It was too wide, showing too many teeth, stretching the skin until it looked like it would tear. The man raised his other hand and pointed, but he wasn't pointing at Elias. He was pointing at the reflection in the glass behind Elias. Elias froze. He didn't want to turn around. The logic of his brain was trying to protect him, but his eyes couldn't help it. He looked at the reflection of his own living room in his floor-to-ceiling window. In the reflection, Elias saw himself, and standing just 3 inches behind him, inside his own apartment, was the man in the suit. Elias spun around. The living room was empty. Silence. He turned back to the window, heart hammering against his ribs. The man across the street was gone. The apartment across the street was pitch black. Elias breathed a sigh of relief. "A trick of the light," he whispered. "Just a hallucination." He leaned his forehead against the cool glass, trying to calm his breathing. As his breath fogged up the window, he saw marks appearing in the steam on the inside of his glass. 2 handprints, and then he felt a cold, dry hand rest gently on his shoulder. A voice, coming from right next to his ear, whispered, "Don't look away. It's much scarier when you can't see me." Elias didn't scream. He couldn't. Because when he looked at his own reflection one last time, he realized he was no longer standing in his living room. He was standing in a dark, empty apartment, looking through a window at a man on a sofa who looked exactly like him, about to close his blinds for the night.